There's a man in your city right now who wakes up at 5 in the morning, not because someone is making him, not because his alarm is set by obligation. He wakes up because he made a promise to himself, and he has never once broken that promise. He trains, he reads, he works on the thing he's building before the rest of the world even opens its eyes. He doesn't post about it. He doesn't announce it. He doesn't need anyone to know. And here's what's strange. Women can feel him from across the room, not because he's the most attractive man physically, not because he drives the nicest car or wears the most expensive clothes. They feel him because there is something in his presence, something in the way he moves, the way he listens, the way he speaks without needing to perform, that communicates one thing above everything else. This man is in control of himself. And I want to tell you today why that single quality, self-discipline, is the most powerful, most magnetic, most deeply respected thing a man can possess. Not just in business, not just in the gym, but in the eyes of women, in the eyes of everyone who matters. Most men are chasing the wrong things. They think attraction is about looks or money or charm or the right thing to say. They're out here learning conversation techniques and dressing better, and working on their social skills, and none of that is wrong, but all of it is surface. All of it is decoration on a house with no foundation. The foundation is discipline, and here's what nobody tells you about discipline, and why women respond to it the way they do. It has nothing to do with impressing them. That's what makes it so powerful. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share is going to reframe the way you understand attraction, respect, and your own potential as a man, permanently. Ryan Holiday is one of the most important writers alive when it comes to understanding what it means to be a man of character. He's written books that have sold millions of copies. The Obstacle is the Way. Ego is the Enemy, the Daily Stoic. But the one I want to draw from most today is a book called Discipline is Destiny. Because in that book, Holiday makes an argument that most people dismiss when they first hear it, and then can't stop thinking about. He says that self-discipline is not a restriction. It is not the cage. It is the key. Most men have it completely backwards. They think discipline means giving things up. It means saying no to pleasure, no to comfort, no to the easy path. And because it means saying no to things they want, they resist it. They procrastinate on it. They practice it for a week and then abandon it when life gets hard. But Holiday's argument, drawn from the ancient Stoics, from Marcus Aurelius, from the lives of the greatest men in history, is that discipline is not about what you lose. It is about what you become. Every time you choose the harder right over the easier wrong, you are not just completing a task. You are building a man. You are constructing, brick by brick, the person you were capable of being all along. And that person, the man built by thousands of private, unglamorous, unseen choices, carries himself differently, speaks differently, takes up space differently, and women, whether they can articulate it or not, respond to that man differently. Let me give you something concrete to hold on to, because I don't want this to be abstract. Holiday opens Discipline is Destiny with the story of Lou Gehrig, the legendary baseball player known not just for his talent, but for playing 2,130 consecutive games. Rain, injury, exhaustion, personal heartbreak. None of it broke his streak. He showed up every single day, not because the cameras were rolling, not because someone was keeping score of his consistency. He showed up because that was who he was. Now think about what that kind of man communicates to everyone around him, to teammates, to opponents, to the woman who eventually becomes his wife, to every person who ever watched him play. He communicates, I am not governed by my feelings. I am not at the mercy of my moods. I decided who I was going to be, and I show up as that man regardless of how I feel today. That is the opposite of how most men live. Most men live in reaction. They train when they feel motivated. They work hard when the stakes are visible. They're kind and attentive when they want something. They make promises to themselves and break them the moment discomfort arrives, and then they wonder why nobody, including the women in their lives, takes them seriously at a deep level. Here is the uncomfortable truth. People don't respect your intentions. They respond to your patterns. And your patterns, built day after day in private, are the truest portrait of who you actually are. Women are extraordinarily sensitive to patterns, not consciously, not analytically, emotionally, intuitively, almost biologically. They pick up on the gap between who a man says he is and who he actually is faster than almost any other type of social intelligence. And when she senses that gap, when she sees the man who talks about his goals but never works on them, who commits to the gym and quits after 2 weeks, who promises things and delivers excuses, something shifts in how she sees him. She might not leave. She might still love him, but the respect starts to erode. And without respect, attraction cannot survive long term. Here's a truth that might challenge something you believe. Attraction and respect are not the same thing. But for a woman to stay deeply attracted to a man over time, she has to respect him. She has to look at him and feel something she can only feel when she's watching someone she genuinely admires. The short-term stuff, the charm, the chemistry, the butterflies that can exist without respect. But it burns out. It always does. What makes a woman look at a man 10 years into a relationship and still feel that pull, that warmth, that sense of safety and desire mixed together is respect. And respect is not given. It is earned, consistently, in the daily details. Ryan Holiday writes about this through the lens of Stoicism. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they understood that a man's character was not built in grand moments. It was not built in battles or speeches or achievements alone. It was built in what a man did when no one was watching, what he chose when the choice was only between him and himself. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world, ruler of the Roman Empire, and yet his private journals, which we now know as meditations, are filled with him reminding himself to wake up early, to resist indulgence, to not be seduced by luxury and comfort, to keep doing the work. The most powerful man alive, talking to himself about discipline, because he understood that the moment he let go of his own self-governance, everything he had built would begin to collapse. That principle does not expire. It is as true for you, sitting where you are right now, as it was for Marcus Aurelius 2,000 years ago. Now, let me take you inside a dynamic that plays out in millions of relationships right now, because this is where discipline and attraction intersect in a way most men never understand. Imagine two men, both in relationships with women they love, both at roughly the same stage of life. The first man, call him Daniel, has no real structure to his days. He wakes up when he wakes up. His career is going okay, but not growing. He says he's going to get back in shape and hasn't started. He says he's going to save money, but his account tells a different story. When he's stressed, he checks out, gaming, scrolling, numbing. When his partner brings up the future, he gets vague and uncomfortable. He's not a bad man. He's not cruel or dishonest. He's just adrift. The second man, call him Solomon, has a morning routine he hasn't missed in 8 months. He's building something, not enormous, but real. A side business, a skill, a savings account that's growing. He trains 4 days a week. When things get hard, he leans into them rather than away from them. He has opinions. He makes decisions. When his partner brings up the future, he has thoughts, real thoughts, not deflections. Both women love their men, but only one of them respects hers in the way that sustains deep attraction. And here's the part that's almost painful to say out loud. Daniel's partner doesn't disrespect him consciously. She doesn't sit down and think, I've lost respect for him. It happens beneath thought, beneath language, in the part of her that responds to signals she can't even name. She starts to feel more like his mother than his partner. She finds herself managing him, his moods, his motivation, his direction. And eventually, she feels alone in a relationship, which is the loneliest feeling that exists. Solomon's partner doesn't consciously think, "I respect him, so I'm attracted to him." She just feels it. She feels safe. She feels like she can let go of control because he has his. She feels like leaning on him won't break him. That feeling, that specific, irreplaceable feeling, is what discipline creates in a relationship, not through performance, through pattern. Let me go deeper into something Ryan Holiday addresses directly in his work, the idea of the undisciplined man and his relationship with comfort. Holiday writes about what he calls the seduction of ease. The modern world has engineered the most comfortable environment in human history. Food at a touch, entertainment without limit, social connection without vulnerability, every craving met before it has time to sharpen into motivation. And men are drowning in it, not violently, not dramatically, quietly, slowly. The dopamine that used to be earned through real achievement, through physical effort, through delayed gratification, through the genuine satisfaction of building something, is now available for free, on demand, through a screen in your pocket. Holiday quotes a line from the ancient Stoic Epictetus that hits like a hammer. No man is free who is not master of himself. Think about that. Not master of his career, not master of his finances, not master of any external thing, master of himself, his impulses, his appetites, his comfort-seeking, his avoidance. A man who is ruled by comfort is a slave, even if he doesn't look like one. He is being pulled by invisible chains toward whatever feels easiest, most pleasurable, most immediately satisfying. And that slavery shows up in every area of his life, in his career, in his body, in his habits, and in how women perceive him at the deepest level. Because here's what women are actually sensing when they feel attracted to a disciplined man. They're sensing that he can delay, he can endure, he can resist the easy option and choose the meaningful one. That quality, the ability to sacrifice present comfort for future value, is one of the most ancient signals of a strong man. It communicates, I can handle difficulty. I will not fold when things get hard. I am not governed by my appetite. That signal is ancient. It precedes language, and it is the reason that a man who keeps his word to himself, who does the hard thing, who shows up when he doesn't feel like it, creates a kind of respect in women that charm, looks, and status simply cannot replicate. Here's something I want you to sit with for a moment, because it changed how I understand all of this. Discipline is not about your body. It is not primarily about the gym, or your diet, or your morning routine. Those are expressions of it. Discipline at its deepest level is about your relationship with your own word. When you tell yourself you're going to do something, and you do it, you are building trust with yourself. When you tell yourself you're going to do something, and you don't, you are eroding it. And the man who cannot trust himself, whose inner voice makes promises that his behavior breaks, is a man who will seek external validation constantly, from approval, from comfort, from women telling him he's enough. Ryan Holiday writes about this in the context of the Stoic concept of self-command. The Stoics believed that the highest form of freedom was not freedom from external circumstances. It was freedom from your own worst impulses. A man who can command himself, who can look at the thing that is easy and choose the thing that is right, is freer than any man who merely has the right to do as he pleases. That freedom, internal freedom, is what women are drawn to, not because they've read philosophy, but because a man who is free from his own neediness, his own impulsivity, his own emotional chaos, is a man who can actually show up for someone else. He has enough inner resources to be generous, to be stable, to be present. The undisciplined man is always running a deficit, always borrowing emotional energy from the people around him to fill the gap his own habits have created. Let me tell you about something that happens in the gym that illustrates this perfectly. Two men start training on the same day, same gym, same time, same starting point. For the first 2 weeks, both of them are on fire, motivated, excited, posting about it, talking about it. Then week 3 arrives. It's cold outside. Work is stressful. The motivation that felt so powerful 2 weeks ago has quieted down to a whisper. One man listens to the whisper and stays home. He tells himself he'll go tomorrow. Tomorrow comes. He goes the day after, and the day after that he misses again. Within a month, he's back to where he started, physically and psychologically. The second man feels everything the first man feels. He's tired. He's stressed. The gym is the last place he wants to be. But he goes anyway. Not because he's more motivated. He's not. Not because he enjoys it more. He doesn't. He goes because he made a commitment. And his commitment is worth more to him than his comfort. Holiday calls this the do-it-anyway practice. He draws it from the Stoic idea that virtue is not about feeling good about a choice. It is about making the right choice regardless of how you feel. The man who can do what needs to be done, feeling what he feels, without letting the feeling make the decision. That man is building something invisible but indestructible. He is building character. And 6 months later, when that man walks into a room, people feel it. Not because his body is better, though it is, because his posture carries the weight of 6 months of kept promises. His eyes have the clarity of a man who has not been lying to himself. His presence has a density that the man who quit simply does not have. Women feel that density. They can't name it, but they feel it as confidence, as safety, as someone worth trusting. Now, I want to talk about financial discipline, because this is a piece that most men in the self-improvement space undervalue, and it connects to attraction in a way that might surprise you. Holiday makes a point in Discipline is Destiny. That wealth, real wealth, not the performance of wealth, is almost entirely a product of discipline. Not intelligence, not luck, not connections. Discipline. The discipline to spend less than you earn. The discipline to invest consistently, even when the returns feel invisible. The discipline to build skills over years instead of chasing shortcuts. The discipline to say no to the purchase that would impress people today in exchange for the security that will sustain you tomorrow. Now, here is where this connects to women and attraction in a way that goes far deeper than women like rich men. A man who is financially disciplined is a man who has mastered delayed gratification. And delayed gratification is one of the most revealing character traits a human being can have. There is a famous study, you may have heard of it, the Stanford marshmallow experiment, where children were offered 1 marshmallow now or 2 marshmallows if they could wait 15 minutes. The children who could wait went on to have better outcomes in almost every measurable life category: health, relationships, financial stability, career achievement. Delayed gratification is not just a financial skill. It is a character muscle, and a man who has built that muscle, who can see the bigger picture, who can resist the immediate reward for the greater long-term one, carries that quality into everything, into how he handles conflict, into how he responds under pressure, into how he builds relationships. A woman who is observant, and emotionally intelligent women always are, watches how a man relates to money, and she sees something much deeper. She sees how he relates to discipline, to patience, to long-term thinking, to himself, and she decides, often unconsciously, whether this is a man she can build something real with. Let me give you the flip side of this, because it's important. The undisciplined man with money is actually more unattractive than the disciplined man without it. Let that land. A man who earns well, but spends impulsively, who has no savings, who uses money to perform status rather than build security. That man is communicating something very specific, with his financial behavior. He is saying, I cannot control my impulses. I need external validation. I am living for today because I am afraid to commit to tomorrow. Holiday writes about this through the lens of the Stoic concept of luxury as a trap. He quotes Seneca, who warned that the more we surround ourselves with comfort and luxury, the weaker we become, not because comfort is evil, but because the man who requires comfort to function is fragile. He is dependent, and a dependent man cannot be a strong man, regardless of his income. The financially disciplined man, even if his account is modest, communicates the opposite. He is saying, I have a plan. I can tolerate discomfort for a greater purpose. My choices are governed by values, not impulses. I am building something that will last. That is a man who commands respect from himself, from other men, and from the women who are perceptive enough to see past the surface. I want to spend some time now on what discipline actually looks like in a relationship, because this is where most men are missing a piece they don't even know they're missing. Discipline in a relationship is not about being rigid or controlling. It is about emotional self-governance. It is about being the man who does not lose himself when things get hard. Think about the most common relationship dynamic you've seen among men who are undisciplined emotionally. When his partner is upset, he either completely shuts down, goes stone cold, avoids the conversation, escapes into his phone or the TV, or he becomes reactive. He raises his voice. He says things he doesn't mean. He lets her emotional state become his emotional state, and then both of them are drowning. Neither of those responses is strength. The first is avoidance, which is a form of cowardice, however passive. The second is reaction, being governed by the emotional weather instead of standing steady in it. Holiday, drawing from Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, talks about what he calls the practiced pause. Marcus constantly reminded himself, and he wrote it down privately for no audience, that between a stimulus and a response, there is a space. And in that space is the opportunity for discipline, for choice, for the decision of who you're going to be right now, rather than just reacting to what happened. A man who has developed the discipline to pause, to feel the surge of frustration or anxiety or insecurity and not immediately act on it, is a man of extraordinary power in a relationship, not because he suppresses his feelings, but because he chooses when and how to express them. He responds rather than reacts. He creates safety rather than chaos. And a woman who has a man like that in her life does not take him for granted. She trusts him. She respects him. She is attracted to him in the way that only safety and strength together can create. Let me tell you about a conversation I want you to imagine. Two women are talking. One of them is dating David, a guy who's charming, funny, spontaneous, great at the beginning of things. But lately she's been feeling uncertain. He hasn't been working out like he said he would. His career plans keep shifting. When they argue, he either disappears or explodes. She loves him, but she can't quite put her finger on why she feels more anxious than settled lately. The other woman is with Marcus, quieter, less flashy. He doesn't always say the right thing in the moment, but he trains consistently. He's building something with his career, and he talks about it with quiet certainty, not boastfulness. When things get hard between them, he stays in the conversation without either running or escalating. When he says he's going to do something, it gets done. The first woman says, "He just doesn't give me butterflies anymore." The second woman says, "I feel so safe with him. Like whatever comes, we're going to be okay." One of those relationships is built on chemistry. The other is built on character. Chemistry expires. Character compounds. And the woman in the second relationship, even if she can't articulate exactly why, feels something that the first woman is quietly starting to crave. That something is respect. And it was built not through a single grand gesture or a perfect romantic moment. It was built through 10,000 small acts of self-discipline that told her, without words, "I am a man who can be counted on." Here is one of Ryan Holiday's most important ideas, and it applies here directly. In Discipline is Destiny, he writes about the concept of the fortress within. He takes it from Marcus Aurelius, who wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The fortress within is not a metaphor for isolation or emotional shutdown. It is a metaphor for internal stability, the idea that a man can have a place inside himself, built through practice, through discipline, through the consistent exercise of self-governance, that no external circumstance can fully breach, a place from which he can respond to the world rather than be tossed around by it. Most men have never built that fortress. They are entirely externally dependent. Their mood depends on how she responded to their message. Their confidence depends on whether people laughed at their joke. Their sense of self-worth rises and falls based on the feedback they're getting from the world around them in any given moment. That man is not unattractive because he has feelings. He is unattractive because he has no inner ground to stand on. He is not someone you can lean on because he is already leaning on everyone around him. The man who has built the fortress within, through discipline, through consistent self-work, through the practice of emotional regulation, that man can be a rock without being a wall. He can be warm without being needy. He can love without losing himself. And that combination, in the world we live in today, is almost shockingly rare. I want to talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention in conversations about discipline and attraction, and that is the relationship between discipline and mystery. One of the oldest truths about attraction is that mystery creates it, not manufactured mystery. Not games, not silence, not fake unavailability. Real mystery, the kind that comes from a man who has depths, who has an inner world that is rich and complex and not immediately legible, who does not pour everything out in the first conversation because he has no internal reservoir. He has so much going on internally that he couldn't empty it in 100 conversations. A disciplined man has that depth by default. Think about what discipline creates over time. A man who reads consistently knows things most people don't. A man who trains consistently knows his own body and his own threshold for pain and discomfort in a way that translates into a very specific kind of confidence. A man who builds something consistently, a business, a craft, a skill, has experiences and insights and failures and lessons that give him a texture most men don't have. He doesn't have to be mysterious on purpose. He is mysterious because he has lived deeply, because he has invested in himself, because his interior life is genuinely rich. And when a woman sits across from a man like that, even without knowing exactly what's different about him, she feels like there are layers to discover. That feeling is one of the most powerful generators of attraction that exists. Holiday talks about this in the context of what he calls the compound effect of self-investment. Every book you read, every hard workout you complete, every morning you chose discipline over comfort, it doesn't just make you better in that one dimension. It adds a layer to the man you are, and layers create depth, and depth creates the kind of presence that people are drawn to without being able to fully explain why. Now, I want to address the man who's watching this and thinking, I've tried discipline. I do well for a while, then I fall off. I can't make it stick. First, that experience is not a character flaw. It is an almost universal human experience. Holiday talks about this with compassion and honesty. Even Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, the philosopher, the man who wrote some of the most powerful words about self-discipline in history, struggled with it. His journals are full of self-reminders because he needed self-reminders. Discipline is not a destination you reach, and then park. It is a practice. It is something you return to every day, because every day the pull toward comfort and ease is still there. What Holiday argues, and what I want you to really hear, is that the falling off is not the failure. The failure is deciding that falling off means you're not the kind of man who can be disciplined. That story, "I'm just not a disciplined person," is the real enemy, not the missed workout, not the bad week, not the relapse into old habits. The disciplined man is not the man who never falls. He is the man who gets up faster, who makes the gap between falling and returning shorter every single time, who doesn't use one broken promise to himself as permission to break 10 more. Ryan Holiday calls this the return, not the perfection, the return. The practice of coming back to yourself, to your standards, to your commitments, with less drama and less self-punishment each time. Because self-punishment is its own form of indulgence. It's just a negative one. It keeps you focused on yourself, on how you feel about having failed, instead of quietly returning to the work. The man who can return without fanfare, without excessive guilt, without needing to announce his recommitment to anyone, that man is building something that will outlast any temporary lapse. Let me bring this all together, because I want you to walk away from this with something real, not just inspiration that fades by tomorrow morning, but a genuine shift in how you understand what you're building and why it matters. Women do not respect disciplined men because discipline is impressive. They don't sit down and calculate. This man has good habits, therefore he scores high on the attractiveness scale. It doesn't work like that. It works at a completely different level. They respect disciplined men because disciplined men are safe, not physically safe, although that matters too. Emotionally safe, psychologically safe. The safety of knowing that the man beside you is not going to be undone by the next difficulty that arrives. The safety of knowing that his love for you is a decision, not just a feeling, and that a man who makes decisions and keeps them will keep this one. The safety of knowing that you are with someone who is actively, daily, working to become better, which means the relationship has somewhere to go. It can grow, because he is growing. Holiday ends "Discipline is destiny" with a line that I want to give you, because it is the clearest summary of everything I've said today. He writes that self-discipline is the most important thing you can develop, not because it makes you successful, but because it makes you free. Free from your worst impulses, free from the need for external validation, free from the anxiety of a life ungoverned, free to love fully, to build boldly, to show up as the best version of yourself. Not when you feel like it, but because it is who you have decided to be. That freedom, that internal sovereignty, is what she feels when she's in the room with a disciplined man. And it is why she respects him, why she trusts him, why the attraction she feels for him deepens over time instead of fading. So here's where I leave you, and I want you to hear this not as a challenge from the outside, but as a call from the best version of yourself, the version that already knows what needs to be done. You know the thing you've been putting off, the morning you keep saying you'll start, the goal you keep describing to people, but not building toward, the habit you know would change your life, but that you haven't committed to yet. That thing is not just a goal. It is a question your own life is asking you. Are you the man you say you are? Or are you the man your behavior says you are? Every day you answer that question, whether you mean to or not. Every morning the alarm goes off. Every moment the choice appears between the easier path and the meaningful one. Every time you could keep your word to yourself or quietly break it. The man you become through those choices. That quiet, unglamorous, daily, private construction of character is the most attractive man you will ever be. Not because attractiveness is the point, but because attractiveness is the natural result of a man who respects himself enough to master himself. Ryan Holiday's work is a reminder that this is not new wisdom. This is ancient wisdom. Men have known for thousands of years that the battle that matters most is the one you fight within yourself every single morning, and every generation of men has had to rediscover it for themselves. You are discovering it right now. Do not waste the moment. Wake up tomorrow and choose the harder thing. Not for her, not for an audience, for the man you are capable of being. Because that man, the one built by discipline, by kept promises, by daily choices made when no one is watching, that man does not struggle to be respected. He simply is. That is prime within. I'll see you in the next one.